Episode number 75 with Clayton and Ben. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton, and thank you for tuning in. Here with me today, I have a guest, Clayton Fletcher. He's been on the show before. I believe it was episode 42. Clayton, do you remember?
Yeah, of course. I always keep track of exact episode numbers of every podcast I've ever been on. So.
Okay, good. Yeah, okay. It must be that then.
I'll trust you on this one, Stevie.
Oh my God, you better tell me what number I'm on again now as well.
Yeah, you better keep track of your numbers, man.
Yes, you guys got to keep a pen and paper handy here.
I'm imagining that future show where I'm asked that question. Oh no.
It's going to come up, Ben. Be ready.
Well, this is going to be easy for you, Ben, because it's episode 75. I mean, it's like 3/4 of 100. There's all sorts of ways you can remember that, you know.
3/4 of the pot, yeah.
There you go, yes. This is kind of monumental for me, actually, because it's been 75 episodes here. Every Monday, we've come out with an episode. And
it's a milestone.
It is, yeah. This feels like a big accomplishment to me.
You deserve a plaque or, some kind of... something to commemorate the moment. 75 episodes.
Yeah.
I read somewhere most podcasts last 2 episodes. So, Steve,
wow.
You really crushed the average. You've crushed the average.
I've crushed that by like 38 or 37 and a half or whatever.
I mean, I'm feeling pretty good on 15 for the Postflop Poker podcast. So
Yes. Oh, by the way, if you guys haven't heard it, episode 15. See how I do this, guys? See how I remember that? Episode 15 of the Postflop Poker podcast. I was a guest on that over the weekend, so go and check that out. I've listened to all their episodes. Very funny. It kind of made fun of you guys a little bit. You sound like the Beatles. And without prompting, I had my mom and dad listen to it, and they both said, they sound just like the Beatles. I'm like, they do, don't they?
By the way, much better name for a podcast than Heads Up. When we hardly ever talk about Heads Up, and when we do, Steve doesn't even know who Dan Coleman is. So I don't know what to do. Heads Up is... I don't know.
Well, it's easier to say than Postflop Poker Podcast, which has got that horrible plosive sound that sounds so horrible when you're editing the podcast and it's constantly spiking. It sounds awful. But
your favorite.
It is what it is.
Microphone ready for this one. I know the industry secrets you guys have.
Popping on.
Yes.
Kind of works.
Yes. But so what have you been up to, Clayton? How's if you guys haven't heard the first episode of Clayton, he's got a comedy club out in New York. It's called the Broadway Comedy Club, and you do shows. Is it every Friday night?
Yeah. So we have Broadway Comedy Club Radio is my podcast. You can find that on iTunes or wherever else, Stitcher, and so the club is in New York City, 53rd Street, not on Broadway. So they're as good at naming their club as you are at naming your podcast.
Oh, nice. We got that in common. Okay.
It's called Broadway Comedy Club, and it's not even on Broadway. Go figure. But it's on 53rd Street in Manhattan, right in the heart of the theater district. And, we interview the headliners. On that show, we have talked to some of the biggest stars in comedy. Amy Schumer, Pauly Shore. That was a great interview. We even talked to Russell Simmons when he was putting a show together for Comedy Central. So, definitely want people to check that out if they can. You can also find it on my website, ClaytonFletcher.com. But best of all, we number our episodes, too. So you can find out what number people are on and then share it that way.
You do? Yeah, so you use the same number system I do. Do you start at 1 and just go up from there?
Starting at 1, and then the one after that was 2.
Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, the episode following 2 was 3. So if you're starting to see a pattern here, that's how we did it.
I do the same thing. I find it very, very helpful because, you don't have to throw in any letters or anything like that. It makes it nice.
Yeah, right down the line.
Yeah.
Beautiful. But Steve, I just got back from Florida. I was down there. I had a gig, and it coincided with the WPT Players Championship, or whatever they called it. The one where they actually had a shot clock, and the reviews are in. The shot clock works.
Really? It. You know what, Clayton? Before we go on, I think it sounds like your microphone is kind of rubbing up against your shirt. Do you have it a little bit close to your collar or something?
Steve, I never wear a shirt when we're on the phone together.
Whatever you did right now, it sounds a lot clearer.
Okay, yeah, I moved it. I did have something on top of the computer here, so sorry about
that. No worries. I always wear a wife beater when I'm talking to you, so you've taken it to that next level. What were you saying down in Florida? I've heard about that shot clock. Now is that kind of like what they do in chess, where they, one guy hits the button and then when it's his turn, or is there just like a timer, like a basketball shot clock up on the wall, and that's how much time they got? Or
yeah, so the dealer keeps track of everybody's time.
Okay.
The dealer has a little clock, and then you get 30 seconds, and when there's about 10 seconds left, the dealer lets you know. And when you don't make a decision within that 30 seconds, your hand is dead. And they don't have to call the floor. They don't have to stop the whole world just to make this decision.
Yeah.
They've had this in Australia for years as part of the Aussie Millions. They have turbos. They call them turbos. But what it means is that you have a set time limit. I believe it's 30 seconds there as well. And what you get these other tokens that you can throw into the pot to buy yourself another 30 seconds. So if you really do have a big decision, you can make it then. But, the idea that players should be making, taking 2 or 3 minutes to decide to fold Jack 4 under the gun, it's pretty bad. And poker has really gotten no fun to watch. So I think this is a step in the right direction, something the WPT did, something that a lot of us were clamoring for the World Series to do this summer. But as far as I've heard, they haven't decided to do that, although maybe for the televised main event final table they will. They have until November to make that decision. But yeah, we need a shot clock, man. Shot clock for the.
That's awesome. That's a great innovation. It's exactly like playing online, right? And you get the time bank if you really need to do some intense maths or something. So it's a good idea.
Time bank. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for sort of pure games. So it's a turn-based strategy game. You ought to be able to have enough time to make the decision. But it's also an entertainment game, right? So, like you say, we don't want to be watching poker where you're getting 10 hands an hour, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. I think the main event final table was fewer than 10 hands an hour this year.
It was hovering around 8.3, I believe.
Oh, my God. It was brutal.
Yeah.
It was tough.
And it wasn't even exciting because one guy had clearly won for like 10 hours of play. It was just dreadful.
Yeah, it was no fun.
Yes. But let's see. So you got Florida. What were you playing down in Florida?
So I didn't play in the WPT Championship. I think it was a $15,000 buy-in. Okay. And I'm hoarding my bankroll for Vegas. I didn't want to take a $15,000 shot. But yeah, I was just down there playing in cash games, and I had a couple of gigs down there.
Oh, cool.
So what I try to do is whenever I have a poker tournament that I want to play in, I try to book a comedy show around the same time and place, and vice versa. So this time I had the gig already, and I was like, well, let me just take a look online and see what's happening in Florida in April. And lo and behold, like one of the biggest events of the year was going on.
Perfect. I've never played in Florida. I really want to play there. Now that the wife has plane tickets to pretty much anywhere, I really have absolutely no excuse. I got to just go spend a week in Miami, or I don't even know what are some of the good casinos down there.
Yeah, I mean the one everybody goes to is in Hollywood, which is right outside of Fort Lauderdale, very close to Miami. The Hard Rock, I mean that's where all the big events are. But yeah, I don't know if you know this, Ben, but Steve has like totally hit the jackpot in life.
Oh yeah, he was telling me in the Postflop podcast. Yeah, it's a ridiculous lifestyle he's got himself sorted, doesn't he?
The man should have an ear-to-ear grin on his face every day.
And now he gets
Yeah.
free plane tickets too.
Yeah, well, I can't complain. I've managed to support myself playing poker for 2 decades and got myself a couple of houses, and I live out in Bangkok. So, life's treated me pretty well too.
Yeah.
How old are you, Ben? You look about 19 in your photo there.
Yeah. The photo's a few years old. I'm 40.
Oh, are you really? Okay.
I am. That was 35 in the photo. So.
Oh, really? Okay, you're like me. You got the baby face. How old are you, Clayton?
I just turned 40 myself in
Oh,
March.
you did? Oh, I'm the baby of the group. I'm only 36. Okay. Yes, now you're out in Bangkok, Ben. How long have you been in Thailand now?
Well, I've been living here just slightly over 10 years.
Okay. And is your wife Thai?
Yes, she is. Yeah.
She is,
I got
okay,
married
yes.
about,
And you speak Thai,
5 years.
I guess?
Not at all. No.
Really?
Well, obviously I can get by, but in terms of how competent am I, is just embarrassing. I mean, really, yeah.
I tried to tackle the Thai language a little bit, and languages, I think, there's some that are pretty similar, like Spanish and English. They have the same alphabet. English and French, you can recognize some of the same letters. English and Portuguese, although the letters are a little bit different and the sounds are a little bit different. It's not like Chinese, where it just looks like a bunch of pickup sticks dropped on the floor. And I think Thai definitely falls in that other category where it's you're crossing 2 barriers there. Not only the written language, but the sound is completely different.
So there's the way the same word means the totally different. The way you say it, the tonal aspect of it, and I just can't get it. I'll say the word, and then they'll say the word, and I'm like, well, that's what I just said, and they say no, and they just laugh at you. So it is. I'm actually fairly competent at languages. I spent a year in Germany, and to this day, 20 years on, I coach poker, and if I get a German customer, no problem, mate, I'll do it in German. My German is that good.
Yeah.
But Thai, 10 years living here, not a chance. And I think anyone who's tried to learn a tonal language may have some sympathy for me. I don't know. Also, when you get a bit older, you do get pretty lazy. So learning languages starts to get harder, I think.
Yeah.
Don't turn 40, Steve.
What's that?
Don't turn 40, whatever you do.
Your brain
Okay.
starts.
Try to
So-
avoid that as much as possible.
Finish. Yeah.
I could do what my mom did and just tell everyone she's 39 for like 15 years. And, would that work? Sorry, Mom.
You're going to be older than your mum real soon.
Neat trick.
Oh, true. So when are you going out to the WSOP, Clayton?
I'm going to be there for the first event, the Colossus. Not the
Oh, you're
first.
getting there right away. When's it start?
Yeah.
May 29th, I think, or May 30th?
Yeah, I think the opening event is the casino employees event, as is tradition.
Yeah,
And that's on the 31st.
31st.
So,
okay.
I'm actually going to arrive on the 30th. I like to get to Vegas a couple of days before the series starts for a couple of reasons. Number one, I suffer from jet lag.
Yeah.
It usually takes me 2 or 3 days even to get past a 3-hour jet lag. So once I get on West Coast time, I'll be good to go. Also, I like to do my buy-ins for the whole series before everybody arrives. So the hordes of people that are coming, I want to beat the rush and be one of the first people to register.
You're not going to be one of the guys standing in the 2-hour line.
Yeah, I'm never going to be that guy. To me, time is money. And if you find yourself in a 2 or 3 hour line at the World Series of Poker, when there are so many ways for you to do this without having to do that, like I just think you didn't plan ahead and you cost yourself money.
Or your name is Mike Snyderman. Right?
Yeah,
when
Mike will be
you
in that
said
line.
you didn't plan ahead, that was the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, Mike will be there. Yeah, right at 12 o'clock on day one of the Colossus. Like, why are there all these people here? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't supposed to happen.
Yeah, I'm excited. I got my schedule. I'm going to play 15 events
Nice.
this summer. I'm ready to rock and roll. Been practicing, watching videos and and just trying to, keep my chops up. It was really fun to be in Florida. Even though I didn't play any tournaments down there, I played a lot of cash games and, against some of the people who had busted out of the big main event, so it was fun. I know, Steve, you don't know who anybody is, but I played against Sean Kunick, Vanessa Selbst, a lot of other name pros that were down there. So I feel like, it might not be plus EV for me to be in a game like that, but it's definitely worthwhile to help me get my, just get my chops up, as we say. I just want to be as sharp as I possibly can. I'm ready to make a splash this summer.
That's cool. You got to play with Vanessa? I do know who she is.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
He doesn't know anybody. I couldn't believe it.
She's kind of famous.
Yeah, but he doesn't know who people are. He's in his bubble. He's in Oxnard. He doesn't know.
I know a shit ton of people in Oxnard.
He knows everyone in Oxnard. If you ever get to Oxnard, Steve can show you around.
Yes. Oh, that's funny. So how long are you going to be out there? You're getting out there the end of May. Are you going to be there all of June, all the way through the whole series? Or are you going there and coming back?
Break. Yeah, there's a little break right in the middle where I have a couple of comedy gigs that I have to do.
Yeah.
They're going to pay for main event buy-in, so I have to do them. But I'll be there for a total of 5 weeks. So almost the whole thing.
Cool. Right on. What about you, Ben? Do you ever make it out to the WSOP, or do you grind online during that time while all the pros are sitting at the tables, or what do you do?
No, I've made it to Vegas a couple of times. I've never entered the main event. It's just outside my budget, to be perfectly honest. I played some big events. I played the APPT over here, the Asian Pacific Tour in Manila. I played some big buy-in events, but only 3 qualifying. I certainly couldn't stick up $2,000 or $5,000. That's just too much for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what I wanted to talk about your book, the Postflop Poker book. What tell us about it? Give us a quick synopsis.
Well, basically, about 2-3 years ago, I had this idea. I thought, I always wanted to write a book. Most people have got a book in them, and I had that burning ambition. I tried through the years to write a novel, and got to page 3, and screwed it up and threw it away. And I never really thought my book was going to be a poker book. But then, it just struck me a few years ago. Well, you're pretty good with this Hold'em Manager tool. I've done quite a lot of work with Hold'em Manager, Tournament Poker Edge, put some good videos together. And I suddenly had this idea where I could actually write a book where I am the expert and I am an authority figure who can say something meaningful. So I wrote a book called Postflop, which analyzes post-flop play in No Limit Hold'em in a really, really unique way, because it's totally database driven. So based on the results of 20-something million hands from a range of different types of play, I've kind of back-driven how to play hands, because normally you think forwards through hands, right? You think about what your opponent's range is. Yeah. So you're going through the thought process forwards, and the book's really kind of just an alternative way of illuminating actually what the most profitable post-flop lines are. So if anyone's interested in a totally different style of book, then go to the website, www.postfloppoker.com, which is also the site where we've got our podcast.
And so how did you come up with, would you say 15 or 20 million hands? Did you pull them from your students, or what?
Yeah. And
I'm assuming you didn't play 20 million hands, right?
No, not quite, no.
Okay.
But the hands all verified to be fine with PokerStars, because we've had the emails back and forth to say that, because the hands have come from students, it's not classed as data mining, because we were worried about, releasing that data when we sort of published where all the hands had come from, because data mining is quite a big issue in online poker, and you shouldn't be holding hands from other people because it's not fair.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. See, I would have published the book and then had some lawsuit come out instead of thinking of that first.
Yeah, but you know what? 22 million, kind of a small sample size anyway. What can you really do with 22
it's
million?
Not huge, right? No. But you're laughing, but actually I don't, because I'm a guy that deals in massive numbers. I actually don't think it's that huge.
Oh, it is. That's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah.
I've played a lot of poker in my life.
Now, how did you even begin to tackle that? I mean, like, did you just take, like, okay, we're going to take all these instances of ace king, and we have 30,000 hands of ace king. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't even know, like, what to ask. Like, how do you take all that data and put it down into, did you kind of take like each I know at least with your podcast, it's like, okay, we're going to play aces right now. So I'm going to take all the hands that I've ever played that we have of aces and just see what worked and what didn't. Like, how did you put that into something that people can digest?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the structuring of the book was a massive, massive challenge. So, what I realized pretty much straight away was that I was either going to have to divide it up by types of flop. So like you say, ace king or top pair, when you flop a flush draw. So dividing it up in that way or some other way. And there's so many different ways of dividing it up. There's different post-flop dimensions that I talk about. And so tournament situation, how many opponents are there? What's your position on the table? What's the stack to pot ratio on the flop? These are just some of the ways that you could divide it up. In the end, I decided to run with your hand strength. So, how strong is your hand? And I divided it up like that, and then subdivided it by what I coined the 6 post-flop scenarios. So for each chapter, I've subdivided it as to, are you the raiser in position, which I call post-flop scenario 1? Are you the raiser in position facing a donk bet, which I call number 2? And then are you the raiser out of position, which is number 3? And there's only 6. There's only 6 post-flop scenarios. There's only ever 6 that you can be in. So that subdivision gives the book this incredible structure that you've got. Okay, it's by hand strength, but then it's also by which of the post-flop scenarios you're in. And I think it's a really, really useful way of looking at post-flop play, because you may not have even been aware that, you can only kind of be in 6 different spots when you're playing post-flop in a way. Obviously, if there's multi-way pots, then it gets a bit more complicated. But in essence, you're either the raiser or you're not. You're either the aggressor or you're not. You're in position or you're not, relatively. And there's a bet facing you or there's not. So there's only 6 spots. And that, like I said, gives the book this structure that if you read it, you really feel. And I think it starts to shape how you see the whole post-flop universe.
Huh, interesting. Cool. That I got to get it. I'm sold.
There's something in there for everyone. There's something in there for beginner players for sure, because I'm not like the world's greatest poker player, but I'm a pretty solid winning player. And
you've been making your living at cards for 20 years. I would say that qualifies you as some type of expert.
Yeah, but very much grinding out low stakes stuff, and I never really tested myself at the high end, and I wouldn't claim to be in the top 1%. So if you're looking for a book that's really high end, that my book's not the book for you. But if you're looking for a book that's a really interesting angle on post-flop play, and I personally think that even top players should read it, because it can really help with the thought process, and that is critical to your improvement, I think. And I'm a poker coach. That's what I do. That's what I've been doing for the last nearly 10 years. I play on the side, but I mainly teach poker. And this is where I see the way forward for improving. It's the way you think through the hand. And people just generally don't think through hands properly. And that's why they don't get better. They just make the same mistakes over and over again. Yeah. So it's about improving. That's what I'm all about, finding ways to improve.
Well, those of us who've been playing that, 10, 15, 20 years, we may be stuck in a rut of not being able to see the game from a completely new angle. And to be honest, I never thought about how there are only 6 possible scenarios on the flop, whether I was the aggressor, whether I was in position. I never really broke it down in my mind. I never came up with that number 6 before. I mean, obviously, I will play hands differently based on whether I was the aggressor, whether how many callers I had. Obviously we all do that, but I think this already kind of gives me another way to categorize.
Yes, that's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, the different decisions I have. Well, this would be different if I don't know. I guess you've already sort of opened my eyes in a sense that there are really only 6 realistic outcomes on the flop of what your situation will be. Now, obviously, the cards on the flop make a difference.
Yeah.
But I like this idea that there are 6 positions you could be in.
Yeah, I'd never thought of it either. That was a first for me.
Like your profit in poker, there's 4 results in a hand. You win through showdown, lose through showdown, win through non-showdown, lose through non-showdown. All the hand strength side of things is going to affect your ability to win or lose through showdown, right? You're going to have equity, showdown equity. Whereas if you're sat as the raiser in position, actually most of the profit you're generating is coming from the non-showdown side of it. And it's opened up by looking at things through the 6 post-flop scenarios. If you're sat in the worst post-flop scenario, out of position, defending a hand, then your ability to make money through non-showdown is, it's vastly reduced. And even if you're the best player in the world, you're going to struggle to make profit with no hand. If you flop nothing, it's just not worth carrying on. So the book talks a lot about commitment levels based on these 6 post-flop scenarios, and also on SPR, which I think a lot of your listeners will be familiar with, this stack-to-pot ratio, which Ed Miller talked about a few years back and has become quite a big thing. So every time the flop comes down, you should consider from how, what's the total effective stack and what's the total effective pot, and work out the ratio between those 2 numbers in order to determine how committed you are to the situation.
I'm obsessed with that book where Ed Miller introduces the idea of SPR and making post-flop decisions based partly on SPR versus this opponent or SPR versus that opponent. I find that book extremely challenging to read through and fully comprehend, which is why I read it maybe 10 times.
What Ed Miller book is this?
So we have to try to remember the title now, but it's 3 authors. One of them is Ed Miller.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to put it in the show notes. I have it on my shelf.
Okay. We've read it 10 times and we can't remember the title. I put you on the spot.
Yeah, it's funny. There are a few books that I've read many, many times, but I just call it like the gray book, the red book, or the green book. I forget the title. But they all have long titles.
Yeah.
They do. No Limit Hold'em Theory and Practice by Ed Miller with David Sklansky. That's a green book.
Okay.
I don't call it no limit hold'em theory in practice. That's the green book.
the one, the one next to the red one.
Yeah. There's a red.
Yeah, but it was a critical thing that he coined, really, and I can't believe it took so long for poker theory to have this. I mean, the good players will have been aware of it beforehand, but he coined it.
I have the title for you, by the way.
Oh, okay.
The book is called Professional No Limit Hold'em, Volume 1. Matt Flynn, Sonny Mehta, and Ed Miller.
Right.
Professional
Good
No
show.
Limit Hold'em.
Yeah, it's a great read.
Okay.
You were quicker on Google than we were.
Well, you were talking and I was typing.
Between the three of us, we'll figure it out.
but yeah, coming back to SPR briefly, I mean, it's so critical. And for those of you listening that are totally in the dark on this, think about when you're playing pre-flop and you think about how many big blinds is in the effective stack and how important that number is. You know, it totally dictates how you play pre-flop. SPR is the same, but it's the measurement for when you're on the flop instead of pre-flop. So as soon as the flop comes down, you should not be thinking in terms of, oh, how many big blinds have I got? You should be thinking in terms of SPR, and that's what the crucial thing is. My book definitely takes that concept and it takes it into all sorts of different depth. So that, for example, if you're holding top pair, top kicker, how committed should you be with an SPR of 4, and how committed should you be with an SPR of 7? And it talks about where the gray zones are. So it almost gives you a blueprint of like, well, okay, I flop top pair, top kicker, SPR's 4. Well, I'm going to have to commit to this, you know. And then when it's slightly higher than that, it'll tell you, well, this is a gray zone, you know, a tough spot. And then if it's more than 7, it'll tell you, well, you really should not be losing all your stack in this spot because someone could have a set or 2 pair or, you know. And of course, there's more to it than that because it depends on other factors, all the post-flop dimensions. But SPR is a huge, huge factor in your post-flop decision-making, which I think personally people just don't realize enough.
And they might not even see why either, Ben. If I may, not to get too technical, but it's really the M is actually more correct here than the number of big blinds, because your M tells you your stack to pot ratio before the flop. So for those of us that deal in M rather than counting big blinds, particularly in tournaments where you have to include the small blind and the antes as well, it's the relationship between your stack and the pot. So you could say that your M after the flop, or on the flop really, is your SPR. We just talk about it in those terms. So it's how much you have in your stack compared to how much is in the pot. And the reason why it affects your play so much is because it's, by the time you make a bet on the flop, what percentage of my stack has now gone into this pot? There's a big,
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a direct proportionality relationship between that number and how committed I should feel.
That's exactly right. I mean, it is a basic risk-reward ratio, and we're counting, like pre-flop, you're absolutely right. We're counting antes, we're counting the size of the blinds. Everything goes into the mathematics, but whether you call it M value or number of big blinds, the essential essential number is the thought process that's important. You know, we can be a little bit out with the maths, especially when we're playing live. You don't need to know whether it's 13 big blinds or 13 and a half big blinds. You need to know. You need to know roughly, right? But with the SPR, it's the same concept. You need to know roughly what the effective stack is, and then roughly what's in the total pot. And if you've got those two numbers, you can clash them together in your head. You can come up with a ratio, and that number is magic. That number totally transforms your ability to play post-flop sensibly and to understand how committed you should be to a flop. I really went off on one, didn't I?
No, that was good. My silence was the two hamsters in my brain running in opposite directions on the wheel.
Well, the math doesn't lie. And it's hard to talk about poker really, in an intricate way without at least exploring the math. But you're right. It doesn't have to be exactly 13.26 big blinds. People get a little bit bogged down with the math, I think. But, in this book, which I, again, have recommended so highly because I read it so many times, Miller talks about the commitment threshold. Generally speaking, when a third of your stack is in the pot, you shouldn't be folding.
Certainly pre-flop, yeah.
Right, or even
Post-flop is a bit more complex, yeah.
Right, but generally that's kind of once you've got 33% of your stack in, and the reason why it's generally wrong to fold at that point is because the pot odds that you're getting, based on how your stack is now effectively. You're always going to be getting at least 2 to 1 just based on mathematics when you have to fall off the rest of your stack. Yeah.
Yeah, and pre-flop, you're usually going to have at least 25-30% equity, but it does depend on your opponent's range. If you've narrowed them down to just aces or kings, then you may be able to make a fold with, you might have made a huge squeeze play from the small blind or something where you've actually stuck in 40% of your stack thinking that they're going to fold 90% of the time, and you've got nothing. You've made a play that has no showdown equity whatsoever against the guy who then 4-bets all in. And if that guy 4-bets all in and your showdown equity is only 15-20%, which it could be if you're literally holding 7-2 against pocket aces, then you can still fold more than 30% of your stack pre-flop. But in general, it's a good rule for people to stick to if they're playing pre-flop is that, you got 30% of your stack in the middle. You should generally be backing up that with the rest of your stack. Otherwise, you're throwing money away. Yeah.
We used to say, don't leave your babies out there to die.
What a beautiful analogy. Jesus.
I think that's a Doyleism.
Oh, my God.
That may well be a Doyleism. I think it is. It's something you used to hear a lot around the poker table. We're talking years ago. I started playing in 1999, so we're going back over.
Don't leave your babies out to die. That sounds like a line from Silence of the Lambs or something.
Don't leave your babies out there to die. You put a third of your stack in, you got to back it up now. But Miller also says in that great book, you're never committed when you're bluffing. So you're not pot committed if you're bluffing.
That's right. So post-flop could be loads of times. There's loads of times where you could easily be, putting 50, 60, 70% of your stack in the middle. And if you believe you've got so much fold equity, then it could be a really profitable play. But it is going to go wrong sometimes. There may be one hand in your opponent's range which, he's going to come over the top with, and just now and again, that's going to happen, and you're going to have to fold a monster amount of chips, and it's going to hurt like hell.
But you got to let those babies die.
Exactly. Those babies have to die. Oh, I said that too passionately. Oh, no.
A little too passionately.
Mummies, daddies out there. Oh.
Oh, shit.
Where do we go from there?
I know. How about, I know where we can go. We can go to some Elliot Rowe. Yes. Some Elliot Rowe hypnosis tapes. You guys head over to HeadsUpPoker.Poker. You can get your free MP3. Click on Support the Podcast and click down on the link on Elliot Rowe, and it'll take you straight over to your 7-minute tilt buster. You can download it to your phone and listen to it at the upcoming WSOP. I'm going to do something different this year. When I go out to my vacation with my buddy, I always listen to hypnosis tapes. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely saturate my brain with all poker hypnosis tapes while I'm on vacation, just chilling on the beach. I take a nap every day, and I'm going to listen to one for a month before the WSOP. And I figure, if nothing else, it can't hurt. So you guys can get your free MP3 to try it out. Go over to HeadsUpPoker.Poker. We've also got some links to Amazon and eBay if you guys are going to buy something on Amazon or eBay over the summer or whenever. If you could click on the affiliate link first, it'll kick back. I think it's 4% to the podcast, and it won't cost you anything else. We'll get a little bit of that for your time. So, thank you. And I've got a few hands if you guys want to go over some strategy.
Let's go.
Okay. All right. This first one is, some of these are pretty quick, and some of them may spur a little bit more discussion. So here's one that's really quick, but actually, well, it may spur a little bit. We'll see what we're doing here. Okay, Ace-4 offsuit in the small blind. Blind levels are 150, 300. Total pot is 690 before we start. We got 27 bigs, and the button opens to 800. So he opens, what is that, 2.67x, I guess. His 900 would be 3x, so a little bit less than 3x. And we're in the small blind with Ace-4 offsuit with 27 bigs. What are you guys thinking here?
What do you know about the razor?
We only have 15 hands on him. He's got, his stack is 16K. We've got a little bit less than 8K. He has 57 big blinds, and over 15 hands, he's at 2013. So we don't know much.
Well, if he's at 2013, I'm just going to fold here because my Ace-4 offsuit, I don't like playing it with a 3-bet. I certainly don't like calling. So what does that leave me? It leaves me with a fold.
Okay.
I think I would also fold, but I really want to emphasize, I think the worst thing you can do is call with this hand. I think that re-raising here is defensible, but, I mean, look at it this way, Steve. If we make it, I don't know, 1,800, even like a smallish kind of re-raise like that to 1,800, then you will have put in 1,800 of your 7,800. And then you don't want to fold when he comes back over the top. But you will have to. You won't want to, but you will.
Yeah.
And then you've just thrown away 1,800. So the real question becomes, is it worth it to turn this hand into a bluff? You have a blocker to some of his stronger hands, so that's why some people would choose to re-raise this.
You're never going to be able to call a 4-bet with Ace-4 offsuit because his range will be, what? At widest, it'll be 10%. And then
you have to fold.
More likely it'll be 5%. So you'll have between 26 and 28% equity, which is just not enough.
Right. So you put in roughly 17% of your chips and then lay down when leaving those babies out there to die.
Yeah. That's
poor little babies laid out there to die.
Yeah. So fold's the right play, I think, in this spot because of the dead babies. When your opponent flaps you, what are you going to do? You're going to c-bet, and things just okay. Sometimes you win with your c-bet. Your c-bet might make a profit, but it's very unhealthy, isn't it? It just goes horribly wrong. If you flop an ace, you're in trouble, or you win a small pot. And if you don't flop an ace, you basically got one c-bet, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
So,
okay. Well, I folded, which I thought at the time was a mistake. I thought the right move was a 3-bet. And the reason I folded actually had nothing to do with this hand, and it had everything to do with a difficult decision I had on another table with pocket queens. And I thought, okay, this decision on this other table is going to affect my equity far more than this little Ace-4 in the small blind. And I thought I was making a very small error by folding here. As opposed to doing the correct move of what I thought at the time would have been a 3-bet. But I ended up running this in ICMizer yesterday or the day before, and I thought, well, I wonder if there's any value to actually shoving here. And I thought 27 big blinds has got to be too much to shove, and it was by far. It wasn't losing much as far as the range that I gave. I gave the button a range of opening 48%, I think.
That sounds pretty wide considering he was running at 20 and 13.
Well, that's only 15 hands, so...
Yeah, that's a very small sample.
Yeah, very small sample. I don't know. For me, on the button, I opened 50%. Maybe that's too wide, but but that's just what
it's not necessarily too wide, but you can't assume that everybody out there, and I know poker's getting really aggressive, but not everyone's opening 40% on the button. 30% is probably much more normal still.
Oh, really? 30? I'm doing 50, so I'm super ag on the
that's
button.
great. It's great. No, you're doing the right thing. But the reality is that people are not as positionally aware as they need to be. So people don't play as often on the button.
Okay.
Steve, what kind of tournament is this? This like a $20 ACR or something? What is this?
This is an ACR. It's a, let's see, hang on. It's kind of in the light. Let me drag the window down. $33.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, in that tournament, you can expect most players to open most buttons, I think.
Okay.
So it's probably wider than we think it is. I don't think it's... Yeah, I bet he's probably opening at least 50%.
Okay.
It's just, it's a tournament. These guys on ACR, they tend to be a little bit aggressive. Most players do open their buttons on tournaments, pretty wide. Okay. But still, I think with our, I always talk about M. M is around 12-ish, and that's just, or as you say, 27 big blinds, whatever. It's not a comfortable spot to shove because that's way too big of a bet for the amount of money that you win from doing it. And it's also not a good spot to 3-bet for similar reasons, just for your stack size. So I don't mind it if you have a lot more chips or considerably fewer chips. But with this particular stack size, I don't think I want to make any kind of play with ace-4. I think folding is correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it just felt too weak to me to be folding an ace to a button open, but I think you guys are right. Just the stack size is so awkward. Like if we 3-bet here, then, we kind of have to c-bet no matter what. And then now we have, we put 50% of our chips into the pot with ace high most of the time. Okay. All right. Okay, I don't feel too bad. I made the right move, but for the wrong reasons. All right. Okay. I got another one here. This one, the run out was kind of interesting. Blind levels are now, same tournament, different table. Blind levels are now 100, 200. And let me see if I can do the math here. 180 in the pot, so the antes are 20. So the total pot is 480 before we go to the flop, or just starting out. There's a min-raise UTG +1, and we just moved tables. We only have 14 hands on this guy. He's a 31-31. He has 25 big blinds. His stack is 4,900 to start the hand. So he min-raises to 400 UTG +1, and it folds around to the hijack. That's 32 big blinds. He's got a starting stack of 6,300. He calls the min-raise. And then we're in the cutoff with Queen Jack of Hearts. And we have 21 big blinds with a stack of 4,200.
Go ahead, Ben.
That's an interesting spot. I mean, you can obviously look at all three moves quite carefully. I've got no issue folding. It depends on how well you think you can play this hand. Can you play it at profit? I think, you probably can play it at profit. But I don't like the fact we've got 3 more players sat behind us. So, if we try and make some kind of squeeze raise, I don't know. So how tight was the caller? What was his stats, the hijack?
The hijack, we have a fair amount of hands. Well, not a fair amount. 59 hands on him, and he's a 29-16, 7.43 bet.
So he likes calling a bit. So there might be quite a bit of junk in his range, which is exactly the type of guy we do want to squeeze. So, yeah, I mean, that certainly makes it a 3-bet more attractive with Queen Jack suited. But what's the effective stack size?
Well, the opener's got 25 bigs. The caller has 32. We have 21, and the 3 guys behind us have 37, 20, and 55. So pretty much my stack of 21 big blinds.
It's a min raise, isn't it? So there's jamming seems a bit. It's difficult to find a re-raise size that makes sense.
You have to shove if you re-raise.
I think so too. I think we either got to shove or call or fold. I don't think we can really do a 3-bet that would.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of calling here, Steve.
What's
I
that?
think calling is a mistake because
I don't like calling any hands when I've got an effective stack less than 25 big blinds. I just think it's nearly always the wrong play. So, it's a shove fold situation, and I reckon shove is probably marginally plus EV here because your hand has. There's no evidence that anyone's got a monster hand, and Queen Jack suited does hold pretty good equity against most ranges. So, even if you're up against a 10% range, you're going to win 40-60. I think you're going to win enough hands through showdown that, you're obviously at this kind of stack depth, you've got loads of fold equity. I think it sounds like a plus EV shove.
Okay. Yeah, we got 4,200 and there's 1,200 in the pot. That'd be a big boost to our stack.
Yeah. There's 1280 out there. And I don't like your position for it though. As Ben mentioned, you've got 3 players to act behind you. It's a little early in the tournament for the big all-in squeeze. You're only at 100, 200 level, so I don't think you're getting close to the money. I prefer to make those kind of big plays when we're close to the money because that's when players tend to fold too much.
Yeah.
So I think this is a fold here.
Okay. So we agree it's not a call?
No, I don't think you can call because of the stack depth. You're just laying yourself open to someone squeezing behind you. You're not guaranteed to see a flop. It's just never good to call with such a small stack size.
You're too short.
You can certainly, folding's got to be a default if you're not sure. But depending on, the pay structure, I don't know what ICM's involved. It may be a plus EV shove, but it may not be a plus EV in terms of, equity in the prize money. So you need to think about that as well because it's going to be marginal.
Okay.
If that makes sense, yeah.
No, it does. Maybe I should have mentioned this. I don't know if this tips the scales or not, but the button, we have a fair amount of hands on him, and he's a 10-10. So with 200 hands on him, he's a 10-10. So he only ever comes into the pot for a raise.
Yeah,
and he's only playing 10%. So I end up calling, and what kind of tipped the scales for me was I thought to myself, if I call here and the button raises, I can be very certain that I can fold, and now I have 19 big blinds instead of 21, and I can be almost certain that when I call here, I'm going to have position for the rest of the hand.
What about the blinds? I mean, the blinds are just loving this, aren't they? They're sat there with King Queen or something, and they're just like, "Way, off we go."
Point.
Do you know what I mean? Is it even a 6-7 suited in the big blind or something? I'm just like, oh, okay, all right then, let's just do it. Because the fold equity is so huge. You're getting so much money every time you get it through. So I don't like giving the blinds that squeezing opportunity.
Okay.
And also, I have another point about why I don't like calling here, and it has to do with the topic that Ben introduced earlier, which is your SPR on the flop is going to make it very difficult for you to fold, even if you have just a middle pair. I mean, in other words, when you call, Steve, there's going to be, about 2,100 in the pot. And assuming that no one raises and we get to see the flop with this hand, you only have 4,200 to start. Is that right?
4,200, yeah. If I call, the pot will be 1,680, and assuming no one else calls, assuming the big blind doesn't call.
So you put in 1,680 and you only have 3,800 after you call.
Yeah.
So then your SPR is about 2. And, you don't like to have an SPR of 2 in a multi-way pot when you're holding a hand like Queen Jack. It's just not a good spot for you because I think it'll be very hard for you to to get away from your hand if you hit a piece of this flop, because
That's exactly right. Yeah, any piece of the flop, you should be committed, and that's the problem, because you're going to be dominated by hands like King Jack, Ace Jack, a whole bunch of different hands. So when you flop a pair, it's not necessarily a great thing, and you're not going to flop a flush draw, straight draw often enough to make it really profitable. The risk-reward ratio is no good when the stack-to-pot ratio is 2. You need the stack-to-pot ratio to be like 10 with a suited connector. I know Queen Jack suited is a nice suited connector with nice big high cards, but it's not.
It looks prettier than it is.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right to bring up the SPR as a massive reason why you don't call, and it's the same reason why I was saying less than 25 bigs. I don't generally flat call any hand. I wouldn't consider doing it, because I think you are. It's very rarely going to be the correct thing to do. Raising or folding is nearly always going to be better. Okay. Whereas when you're deep stacked, I think calling pre-flop, there are more applications for that, especially against weak opponents, especially if you have post-flop edge over your opponents. So, yeah, I mean, back in the old days, I used to limp into pots just to see flops with idiots. I mean, but these days, you can't get away with that type of thing. You have to be playing smart.
Okay. Point well taken. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Okay. Well, I end up calling. I call 400. The button folds, the small blind folds, and the big blind folds. And so the total pot is 1680. And the flop is, we've got Queen Jack of Hearts, and the flop is Ace of Hearts, 10 of Hearts, 3 of Spades. So we flop a flush draw and we flop a gut shot, and the original opener into a pot of 1680, he bets 560. And
obviously, shove.
Okay, we're never getting away from this, right?
Yeah, you have a royal flush draw.
Yes. Yes.
You got 12 outs, which if you multiply by 4 gives you just 48. So you got about 46% equity anyway here, which clearly you only need about 30 something to justify gambling. So it's a clear call.
Yeah. Okay. Well, is it a clear call?
Right. No. Well, it depends on the action. I mean, I would actually favor the fold equity, really. So, if you can make people fold, then yeah, let's do it. So all in, whatever the action in front of you, all in.
Agreed.
Okay. Yeah, and the 1680, the original opener bets 560, so he makes it. What is that? Like a third, I guess. And the guy in middle position, he folds, and it's on us with 3,800 behind. Would you guys just be shoving here?
Yeah, put it in, and I don't care what happens. He can call, and I'm happy. He can fold, and I'm happy.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, once again, I'd probably do the worst thing. I don't fold, which I think would be the worst thing, but I call. And looking at it now and listening to you guys, I really can't justify or think of what the hell I was thinking. I don't know. I don't know.
It probably doesn't really matter.
You know what we should have done? We should have just stopped on the flop and said, okay, the lesson here is shoving. On to the next hand. So the turn is a 3, an offsuit 3. So the board now is ace 10 3 3. We still have our royal flush draw. And the opener, he bets 1,400 into 28, and I'm assuming you both would say to shove here, right?
You're still totally committed, so yeah, it doesn't matter what.
If I had played the flop in the way that you did, I would just call now on the turn, because even though we're committed, that doesn't necessarily mean we have to get broke if the river is a brick.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If he doesn't bet our full stack on the river, we might end up saving a few bucks. But yeah, I mean, I think one good thing to keep in mind is that the flop is a really good street for drawing hands generally, and the turn is a really good street for made hands generally. Yeah. So your biggest edge in this situation is going to be on that flop when you have all that equity. That's all going to get cut in half on the next card. So get it in when you have all the equity.
Yeah.
Hey, do you know, Clayton, we have an award on our show for the best bit of advice. And that was absolutely beautiful, I think. So if you were on the PPP, you would have just gotten the award.
Thank you.
What should we call the award, Ben?
You can call it what you want. It's just an award.
Okay.
The Dead Baby.
What'd you say? The Deadbeat Award?
The Dead Babies Award.
The Dead
Save
Babies
the babies. Yeah, save the babies.
The baby that you didn't throw away.
Don't spit your dummy out. I don't know.
Yeah.
This, I think, is where you and I were thinking the same, Clayton, because at this point, when he bets the turn like this, he bets half pot. I thought, okay, he has an ace here every single time. And I thought, okay, well, I can call here, and then if I brick the river, I think even like a 3 of hearts giving us a flush might even be a brick, because at that point, any pair, which I'm almost certain he has now, is a boat. But anyhow, I completely continue to butcher this hand. I call. We get lucky on the river. It's an offsuit king, so now we got the straight, and he bets, and we call, and we win. But yeah, as I was reviewing these hands, I was like, I feel like I butchered this thing all along the way. So, what better way to embarrass myself than bringing it on the podcast?
Well, if you never make any mistakes, you can't learn anything. So, this is. I mean, I think the really big thing to take away is that with a shorter stack, you can't really be playing to see the flop. The shorter your stack gets, the more important it is to play pre-flop.
Yeah. I really like what you said, too, about what you got the award for. Is that on the flop, it's better for drawing hands. On the turn, it's better for made hands. That's I think intuitively I knew that, but when you said that, something kind of clicked, and you're absolutely right.
It's very nicely expressed. Yeah.
Well done. You earned that award. Right on.
Do I still sound like the Beatles?
Now, you're clearly not from Liverpool.
Thank you.
Clearly not at Liverpool.
Just 45 minutes away in Manchester.
Big difference.
Do you guys have different accents in different parts of England? I imagine you do, just like we do in the States, right?
Oh, big time. Yeah, but it's even more, it's far more intense, the accent differentiation. Yeah.
Okay.
All across Europe for historical reasons. But you guys haven't got that much history, so you all speak roughly the same.
No, we haven't. You saw my map of the world, right? The way the Americans see the world.
Yeah. Funny as hell.
I tweeted out this map. I don't know if you saw it, Clayton. This map of how Americans see the world, and it shows America, and it's got a flag across the shape of America, and it says, "We are number one," like R, like the letter R, and then a number one, and then it shows Alaska, with the American flag on it, and it has an arrow pointing, "More America," and then it's got the Hawaiian Islands, and it says, "More America." There is no Africa on the map, and the where Russia is, it's very small, and it says something like commies. And then it shows Mexico, and it says they do our laundry here. And then it shows South America, and it says, I think this is where coffee comes from.
It's very, very politically correct.
Oh, yes. It's so accurate. It's so true.
To put it simply, most Americans believe that America is the greatest country in the world, and most Americans never get a passport.
Yes. It's something ridiculous, like 96 or 98% of Americans are born and die with never getting a passport or leaving the country.
Right, but we know we have the best country, even though we haven't seen the others.
Yes. It's just drilled into us ever since we were little kids. It's
you're number one.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
Oh, it's classic. But, did you guys have any hands or anything you want to? Any strategy?
I do. I have something I'd like to bring up.
Oh, okay, cool.
After that big tournament down in Florida, now again, this is a $15,000 buy-in. It's the Tournament of Champions, and all the big superstar players were getting into the cash games after they busted out. One of them, this guy actually mentioned earlier, Sean Kunix, showed up said hello to everyone, ordered 20 drinks, and just started, having some fun. He was joking around. He was making fun of the other players. He in a loving and positive way, not like he was picking on people.
Not being a dick. He was being
right,
fun.
right.
Okay.
The guy clearly didn't care about money. He told me his bust out story, whatever, blah blah blah, bad beat, whatever. And then we just started hanging out. And when I see a guy like that at the table, that's my kind of guy. I like to have fun when I'm playing poker. So we start talking, and he's telling me about his life and everything. Anyway, it becomes apparent that this guy has plenty of money, doesn't care about the stakes that we're playing. This was a 2-5 game with an automatic $10 straddle. So we had basically essentially turned it into a 5-10 game with 3 blinds, 2-5-10.
Okay.
I'm sitting on about, I don't know, $3,000. So I'm doing really well in this game. And here's my theoretical question. If you know that Sean, who's on your immediate left, is going to re-raise 95% of the hands that you guys play because he really doesn't care and he's just having fun and he's being very open about that. He's trying to get it all in pre-flop. He buys in for $600. And if he doubles that, he tries to get it all in pre-flop. Like he's just trying to run it up. He's basically playing a slot machine at the poker table.
Okay.
What is the worst hand I should open?
Is it really 95, or are we exaggeraering?
I mean,
literally 95.
And is he just shoving? Like, let's say your average at a 2-5-10 game. What's your normal open? 30,
Yeah,
35,
I'm
40?
usually making it like 35, 40, whatever.
Okay.
And
is
then
he just shoving, or is he making it like 110, or what's he doing?
he shoved a couple of times, but mostly he was making it 150.
I would say pocket 4s becomes a must.
Okay.
Pocket 2s definitely not, because the equity against a 100% range is massively different between those two hands. What you're looking for is equity, hands that have more than 50% equity, and preferably hands that have significantly more than 50% equity. So like 4-4 would probably win about 57% against his, entire 3-bet, if he's going all in with virtually everything. So I think that would be my pocket pair open, 4-4 and above, which is just ridiculous. But, if you're looking for plus EV moves, then I think you've got to take that.
Yeah, it's a cash game, so we don't care.
Yeah,
we just buy more chips if we lose them.
And on a similar note, I would say, even though I can't really believe it, I think you've got to run with any ace, including an ace-2 offsuit, because, again, same story. You against the 100% range, you got clearly positive equity. Even if he's only raising 70%, you're still going to win more than 50% of them.
Right.
And this is where, if your knowledge of equity is strong, which I hope mine is showing to be reasonably strong, then you're going to know which hands that you can profitably play in this exact spot. When it comes to your King X hands, I don't know. I would say King 5 suited, something like that. I mean, you could possibly go a little bit more wild, but King 5 suited, off-suited kings, maybe King 9, maybe even a few more. I don't know.
What level of risk are you willing to take here, Clayton? Do you want to be 60% or more? Are you okay with 57, or what are you thinking?
I want to be anything above 50%.
Yeah, exactly. It's a cash game. You've got that's the whole point. We've got to take plus EV, right? There's no ICM. So, yeah, I mean, you're looking at any hand in the top half, really. So,
pretty much.
I would say,
that's discounting the other players at the table. I'm not heads up with this guy, but I have been having a lot of success getting heads up. By the way, I'm patting myself on the back right now, Ben, because I absolutely nailed this range. When I saw how this guy was playing, and I haven't done all the calculations like you guys. I'm not really an online player that much. I do a dabble, but I'm not really a analyst. Like I have to look up what he means when he says this guy's running 10, 10, 10 and 29 and stuff. Like I have to figure that stuff out because I'm a live player. But my range for this was 4s and up plus any ace plus king 5 suited plus king 9 offsuit and no queen highs at all. So I folded queen jack. Is that correct?
No. Queen jack would have been doing great.
Okay.
In fact, even queen 9 would have been clearly.
Okay, so that's where I screwed it up. All right.
And then even a lot of the suited connectors. So 10-9 suited would be possible. I know it's ridiculous to go all in with a 10 high hand, but if he's really gonna, I don't know that you can guarantee it. Like 10-9 suited will win against a 70% range. It won't win enough, but against a 90% range, it will. So that's a kind of borderline. And then obviously you don't want anything without at least a jack in it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because a heads up equity high card is important. And so I'd be thinking jack 8 suited, jack 9 suited, suited queens, but you could probably go a bit wild with suited queens. And
I was folding all those.
I think you got it right with everything else.
Okay. Yeah, great. And also I figured that there was a limited time frame. This guy was doing shots. Like, by the way, great guy. Let me just do a little tangent here, if I may. Great freaking guy, really having the time of his life. He probably threw away $6,000 on that table, 600 at a time, and didn't care at all, laughing, joking around, telling me his life story about, how he didn't really have a dad. And he's given back. He's done very, very well in poker. And now he has a business where he sells luxury automobiles. We're talking Ferraris and such like that out in Ohio. And he has a website I want to plug for him. It's called inspirepositivity.com. And it's like how to take, for poker players that actually have a conscience, we play a card game for a living, but, here's a guy that has actually taken a lot of the money that he made and done some real good with it, helping young men who don't have dads, kind of like Boys and Girls Club kind of thing. And just, he said he's going to quit playing poker even because he doesn't like the way people behave at the table. He's like, I'm here gambling it up, having a great time, and you guys can't even give me a smile. Some of these guys wouldn't say one word to him.
He's actually saving the babies.
Yeah.
Literally saving the babies. Yeah, but on the table, he's having fun. He's exactly the kind of guy you want in a cash game. Obviously, anybody that's willing to gamble to that extent is great for the game. But these guys were treating him like an enemy. And, I think it gets to a bigger point about why the game isn't fun anymore and why the ratings for the poker TV shows are going down and all the stuff I'm always harping on when I write my articles for the 2+2 magazine. I hate this stuff. It's like a guy like that comes to the table. He wants to have a party. Let's have a party.
Yep. Yeah, I played with a guy like that last year. It was at one of the daily deep stacks at the WSOP. He showed up, and one of the first things he says, he's like, well, we should probably get going because for whatever reason, they waited a little bit to start the tournament. And he said, we kind of got to get going. He's like, my plane leaves at 10 o'clock tonight. And I'm all, this guy has absolutely no idea that if you go the distance in this tournament, it goes until 8 in the morning. I'm like, okay. And everyone, he was just running over the table and not from skill. It was just blind ass luck, and everyone was just treating him like he was, like you said, like he was the enemy. And I'm like, oh my God, what? Come on, guys. He's only here for a few more hours. At least let him have fun,
Yeah. Yeah, and don't discourage it, like making like poker comments like, oh, what's his range there for 3-betting? It's like, dude, he's drinking tequila.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you gotta respect everybody's different motivations, haven't you? And just be compassionate towards people. There's no point being an asshole on the table. I would definitely be looking to exploit and, but I'd do it in a nice way. I don't think there's any excuse for, people just blanking everyone and I'm all for a bit of banter.
I got all in with him with about $1,200 pre-flop. I had ace 4 offsuit and he held the, I think it was the jack 3 suited.
Okay.
So he's actually kind of doing okay against my exact hand.
Now, what is that, like 45?
He's not doing bad.
55 or something like that?
I won this huge pot, this big all-in pot, and afterwards he gave me a fist bump, and he says, I really like the way you play, man. You got a good style. I like the way you play.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah, well done. Yeah.
I plugged some of these ranges in. I actually put 95% into a slice, and I didn't realize how wide 95% is, but it's pretty damn wide. The only thing he's not playing, if he's doing 95%, is he's not playing 3-2 offsuit through 8-2 offsuit. Everything else he's playing. So if that's really his range, if you're playing 40, what did I plug in? I plugged in 45%. And against that, you're 58%.
Yeah,
so,
which is fine. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That's great.
Yeah, that's a really good.
You've got to be a bit careful of. It needs to be you and him only in the pot because obviously, right. If there's someone sat behind, then you've got to factor that in.
You're absolutely right, Ben. But the best part of all is that I was on his immediate right. So by the time I raised and he 3-bet, I would know if anybody else had interest. And then I could adjust my range substantially because, if this nit over here just called 150, he's sitting on aces hoping that I, 4-bet. Because to some of these guys at this table, I looked as crazy as Sean did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually
trying to get involved with him.
Clayton, was your seat actually made of gold? I think it was, wasn't it? It's like everyone else had normal seats except you.
I had the golden chair. Yeah.
In that situation, you might almost want to be on the guy's right instead of his left. I'd never thought of that.
Of course you do.
Yeah. Huh. That's cool.
So that was kind of fun, and you'll never see that online. Unless you're playing like the absolute micro stakes, you might see something like this. But nowadays you just don't find games like that online anymore. But during big tournaments, especially in places like Los Angeles and Florida, you see this kind of action, and a lot of players don't really know how to handle it. Like I say, I looked crazy to them because they've never encountered this type of, quote unquote maniac before, and they don't realize how much they need to open their ranges too. And no one was really challenging me against him unless they really had a very strong hand. But also, I think a lot of it has to do with people's bankroll. They don't want to put in 600 even with pocket nines because, I don't want to lose $600 on a flip, as they would say. But when he's playing 95%, it's very likely not a flip.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you can also respect a slightly more conservative strategy. I mean, your strategy is probably optimal, taking all those hands, but you could take slightly fewer. You could go a little bit more conservative and look for the 60-40s or better, and that's still going to be really plus EV, right?
Right. Yeah. The only problem with that, Ben, is this guy's not going to be here all night.
Yeah, he's going to be there very long. Yeah, someone's going to get the money, and you want to make sure you get it. Get a piece of it.
So I think you have to open it up for that reason, especially because nobody can drink that much tequila and play for another 4 hours. That's not going to happen.
It's a nice story. I liked it.
Yeah, we had a good time. I love live poker, man. It's the best.
Yes, it is fun. I can't wait. I haven't played live in, God, it's been months now. I've just been playing online and coaching, and I can't wait for the WSOP. This is going to be so much fun. Oh, it's going to be cool.
You should come out, Ben. It's only like a 28-hour flight from where you live. Why not?
Yeah. Not counting layovers.
Yeah.
Well, we should probably wrap this up. I just found out I have to drive my wife to the airport. She has a parking spot reserved for her as an employee, but it doesn't start until June. So I got to drive her.
Take your wife to the airport, Steve.
Yes.
Good times.
Yes. Right on. Well, thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate it. This was a fun little landmark anniversary episode 75. This was cool. Thank you.
Episode 75, the best yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. I thought it was a good episode.
Podcast ever.
Good times, guys. Good times.
Right
Clayton,
on.
nice to meet you.
You too, bud.
Steve, talk to you soon, buddy.
Yes, well, and thank you for tuning in, and you guys can check out Clayton in New York at the Broadway Comedy Club. We'll put a link in the show notes, and check out Ben's podcast, Postflop.Poker Podcast. We'll also put a link in there. You can head over to HeadsUpPoker.Poker, check out the website, and thank you for tuning in. Here is your weekly motivational speech.
Just find one thing and just decide that you're going to work with it until it gives you the blessing that you want, and don't let up on it. Just keep right on working it and working it and working it, and knowing that whatever you do, you can better your best, that you can get better at it, that whatever you are achieving right now, it's only a tip of the iceberg of what's possible for you. And so many people are dying with dreams, they dying with books inside of them, CDs inside of them, acting skills inside of them, athletes inside of them. Like, so much is inside of them that they never get out because they don't want it, you know. And I just know something about humans. You've seen mothers like weigh 140 pounds pick up a car when their babies are trapped under a car. Like, she 140. How she pick up the ride? But she wanted it. Like, she wanted her baby to live. And you take her the next day and you try to get her to lift the car, man, she can't touch that ride. But the day before, that adrenaline, you know, that movement, that everything in her was able to do that because of her why. So when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, man, you can have